Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Welcome to another Ask the Experts radio show where we, for the last 17 years, have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, our expert this morning, it is a topic that has bothered me for 17 years. We have gotten all your letters, your emails, your texts, a lot of you asking about auto accident injuries, wrongful death, even dog bites. But we just never had an opening for a personal injury attorney in the New York or the New Jersey area. And we finally got an opening. I got to tell you, we are so blessed to find one of the finest personal injury attorneys, I say in the United States, but they cover New York and they cover New Jersey. Let me welcome to our show Attorney Michael Licatesi. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Thank you for that kind introduction.
Well, you know what? You guys are the best. And I got to tell you, people, I've been doing this so long, Michael. I started off with the days where, you know, whoever had a full page ad in the yellow pages, that's who people would select as their attorney. They didn't care good or bad. And then it actually, especially here in Florida, went to 2 full page ads. I mean, it was whoever, and finally it started calming down, and yellow pages is dead now. And it went to websites, and people were choosing who had the best website. The great part about this show, if you're having injury, especially auto accident injury, you have no idea who to call, who to hire. This is why this show is so important. And especially in auto accidents, you know, you never know. And I want you to, we're running the phone number right now below on our YouTube, but for all you TikTokers, look at all the TikTok people who are listening right now.
Yeah, right? Why don't we spitfire some questions, because usually there's so many we can't get through them. So
exactly.
Hit me with the questions, and I'll try to get them quick to everyone.
Okay, you want to just a quick about your firm?
Yeah, so our firm specializes in all facets of personal injury. We also do medical malpractice. We do nursing home abuse. Anything that surrounds the personal injury field, we handle.
So tell people, what is it, especially with auto accidents, what is the first thing someone should do if they're in an accident?
The first thing you do in an accident is document. So get the other driver's information, get their insurance card, their driver's license, take a picture of their license plate. You want to document it with the police. That documentation, that evidence that you preserve, day one is really important, because if you come to an attorney a few weeks later, we're never going to be able to get that information. And if you don't call the police and they don't make it, we won't have that. Now, if you don't have a police report, that's okay. We could still proceed with a case. The next few calls are either to make sure that you get an ambulance to the hospital, you get medical treatment, and to your attorney. What you say to the insurance companies right away can stick with you for the entire case. They record those phone calls. So I would speak to an attorney first.
Okay, this is our first question from TikTok. What is the first thing I should do in a wrongful death? I believe that the nursing home was responsible for my mother's death.
Yeah, unfortunately we get those types of cases every day. And, you know, we try to take on as many as we can, but we're selective to make sure that we are really spending the time on the cases that need our help. So the first thing to do is try to compile those medical records. My team has on staff experts that will evaluate whether or not the nursing home was at fault or negligent and caused the death of this caller's mother. So, first of all, an intake, call our office at 516 227 2662. 516 227 2662. One of our team members will take down the information. Sometimes they can assess right away. If not, we really need those medical records from the nursing home to evaluate.
This is from Brian on YouTube. He wants to know, I live in New Jersey. I work in New York. If I'm in an accident in New York, do I contact a New York firm or a New Jersey firm? But you're both, Michael.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'd be able to handle it regardless. But if you're involved in an accident in either state, typically the case will proceed in that given state. So if you're involved in the accident in New York, you would file the lawsuit in New York, but you could still get medical treatment in New Jersey.
Here's they have a follow-up. They want to know, how long do I have to file a personal injury claim?
So in your particular case in New York, you have 3 years.
Okay. Michael, what is when someone is looking for a law firm, how much time do they have after the accident? So in other words, do they call you right away? Do they talk to a chiropractor?
So the best recommendation is to call right away for many reasons. For example, I have a case where an individual, it's an interesting case. An individual, 26 years old, was riding a bike. There was a telephone wire that was hanging, got caught into the tire, lifted him up, and basically slammed him on his head. And
Wow.
he suffered a craniotomy, which is where they shave a portion of your brain. And when they do that, you lose one of your 6 senses likely. The reason why I'm bringing this case up is because I hired retired police officers to canvass that area for about 3 weeks to identify if there's camera footage, if there's witnesses. And every day there was something new that we were discovering. Our theory of the case kept changing as we kept speaking to individuals about the case. So if you wait to contact an attorney, you may forever lose that evidence. So sometimes the most important part of the case is day one, is what we can do. And if you're involved in an accident with the tractor trailer, or in this particular circumstance with the telephone wire, that day we can send someone out. There may be violations that a layperson, an individual, may not be aware of, but our experts and our investigators that will send out that day, or at times the following day if someone's not available that day, to assess the information, take videos, take photos. Even on an escalator case or an elevator case, if you don't send someone out for 3 or 4 days, or if you don't call an attorney for a few weeks, we'll never know what the condition of that elevator or that escalator was at the time of your incident. We need to prove that. Just the client's word that the elevator malfunctioned is insufficient to prove a case. You need an engineer, you need an expert to evaluate, inspect the elevator, the escalator in those circumstances.
Okay. Next question is, do I have a claim if it's partially my fault in an auto accident?
So interestingly, the law just changed here in New York State. This is important. Governor Hochul just passed within her budget that we now have a modified comparative fault law here in New York. In the past, since inception, for decades, centuries, the law here in New York was comparative fault. Even if you were 99% at fault here in New York State, you could still proceed. Now, if you're 51% at fault or more, you cannot proceed with the case. That is the same for New York and New Jersey. So if you're partially at fault, you can still proceed, but you cannot be more 51% or more at fault. If you're 10%, 20%, 30%, that's okay. You can still proceed.
This is from Micah in Brooklyn, who wants to know if you're in an automobile accident and the other party does not have insurance, can you still claim anything?
It's a very good question, and it's actually very common, which is unfortunate because you're
Yes.
mandated to drive with insurance. Throughout the boroughs, we see it more and more that there's unlicensed drivers,
Mm.
which is illegal. So if you're in an accident with an unlicensed driver, your vehicle will have uninsured motorist coverage. This is also really important. One of my biggest recommendations is to make sure that you have at least $100,000 of uninsured motorist coverage to protect you and your family. Now, I've had circumstances where children have lost legs or family members have died, where the most horrific circumstances where there's only $25,000 policies. I got a call this week where there was a motorcycle accident where a young gentleman just passed away. I'm praying that there's not a $25,000 policy or the other car was uninsured. So to answer your question, your vehicle will have a policy provision called uninsured motorist coverage. What does it mean? It's self-explanatory. If the other car is uninsured, your policy will pick it up. And in that circumstance, a lot of drivers only have 25,000 that protects themselves. So, if you have 100,000 bodily injury policy, that means you're protecting everyone else with the 100,000. But if you only have 25,000 uninsured motorist coverage, you're only protecting you and your family for 25,000. You have to increase that policy, and I'm happy to explain that to anyone in a little bit more detail. God forbid something happens, you need to make sure that you have that coverage. So yes, you still have a case.
Here's a TikTok. Great show. I'm glad there's finally an actual show on personal injury. Do you know right away if a person has a case?
I could probably tell in about 10 seconds.
Okay. And then his follow up is, how many of your cases actually go to trial for auto accidents?
So about 98, 99% of cases settle and resolve. The reason behind that is because it's very expensive to try a case. Experts are expensive. It's time consuming. It's expensive for the defense to try a case. By the time you put on all those experts, I just tried a case. It was 6 weeks long. It cost us over $100,000 to try it collectively from both attorneys. Probably cost over $200,000 to try that case. So It's very expensive. So most cases settle, but now there's more and more of our cases are actually going to trial. So we're on trial about every month right now. We have 10 trial attorneys. So we have the bandwidth to make sure that we're prepared and we try those cases. One of the most important decisions that an individual can make when selecting a firm is to make sure that you're hiring trial counsel. The reason why that's important is because you need the defendant and the insurance company to fear the attorney that you're hiring. That is where the leverage comes from. That's where negotiating from a position of strength comes from. If that law firm doesn't impose that threat on the other side, then they don't really have the leverage that you need.
This is from TikTok again. What if you're injured at work? Do I need a workers' comp attorney or do I need a personal injury attorney?
It's another phenomenal question. I'm loving these questions today. So for the law in New York State says that if you're involved in an accident at work, you cannot sue your employer, but there are caveats. So for example, if you're driving for Uber, you're in the course of your employment, Uber would have workers' comp insurance that would cover your medical payments and your financial payments. Okay. But you can sue the car that struck you because that's a third party. It's an outside party. And you have a bodily injury case against them. You have a personal injury case against them. So you actually have both that run hand in hand. Another example is if you're a construction worker, typically you'll still have a personal injury case. If you're working, let's say for FedEx, Amazon, UPS, and you're delivering packages and you're on a homeowner's property and the pavers on the front porch break, you have a case against the homeowner and a workers' comp case. If you're at a job site, if you're at a warehouse and you're making a delivery or working, and there's a defect on the property, it depends upon who you're working for and who you're suing. For example, if you're at work at a warehouse and again, let's use the same example. The tiles on the floor are loose and you fall. The ceiling falls on you. And that is a structural issue that the property owner is responsible for. They are an outside party that you can sue. If your employer is responsible, then you only have workers' comp. So it depends, and I'll likely ask you at the intake phase, who's paying you, who's on your pay stubs, who owns the building, who else can we possibly sue? And we have to investigate whether there's outside parties that are responsible for your injuries.
This got a lot of questions coming. How about here's one. What if the insurance company has already offered me a settlement? Could you still handle my case?
So I asked that one on another show. And again, these are great questions. I'm trying to spitfire and answer them because usually we never have enough time to finish them.
Yes.
So the short answer is if you signed a release and you've deposited the money, we cannot help you. However, I have argued that if you did not deposit the money, you've sent the money back and they have forced you to sign in duress and convinced you without you knowing what you're signing, it's an argument that I'd potentially make and try to argue that we can proceed with the case. I had an individual that came to me a few years ago. The insurance company offered her like $2,500. We wound up getting her $150,000.
Wow.
So the insurance companies now are designed to approach people when they're involved in an accident to give them a sum of money to make them go away. And it's enticing when somebody's handing you money. But at the end of the day, there's so much work involved in this and so much pressure that when I get this case on the trial calendar and I say to them, look, you're going to spend $100,000 to try this case. Plus, my client has serious injuries. We've already hit you guys in the past for a few $100,000 on this particular case. You have to pay us six figures. They know that there's a real threat and there's nothing else that they can do. When it's a lay person, there's no threat to them. They don't care. There's nothing forcing them to pay you more money.
Here's a question that's come up on several of our shows. It's in regards to, because there's so much out there about these skinny injections, and there's some problems that people are having. Do you see people having cases against some of these big pharmaceutical companies?
Yeah, that's again, trying to spitfire. The short answer is there's many law firms that I work with that are handling these types of cases. Typically, these have to go to trial. And you basically sign with a mass tort, a class action law firm, and they will help you. And I'd help anyone as well. And again, you can call us at 516-227-2662. You'll speak to my intake department. They'll lead you through it. Essentially, there are firms that are leading in these class action and mass tort cases, and they'll go to trial. Once you start winning those trials, then they'll come up with a settlement. There's no reason not to sign with an attorney because it's on a contingency fee basis. You don't owe any money up front. You don't owe us anything for a consultation or for us to represent you unless we're successful. So I have been seeing a lot of Ozempic and weight loss medication cases. It is a big class action suit right now and mass tort suit right now. So I highly recommend speaking to someone if you are having significant injuries as a result of the medication.
I want to get this last question in. You actually represented a friend of mine, your firm, and did a great job. I am wondering, does your firm handle mesothelioma cases?
So we don't handle mesothelioma cases. But again, you can call us, and I'd be happy to put you in a position to find that right attorney or to recommend someone. And I appreciate the kind words. That's why we
Yeah.
do what we do.
You never know who's watching or listening. Michael, how do people reach your office?
So the office line is 516-227-2662. You could text us at 516-725-2552, 516-725-2552 to text. Our main office line is 516-227-2662. We look forward to helping anyone that's in need.
And Michael will be back again with us next month. All that wrote, God, we've got about 30 more questions. We'll save those for next month, where Michael will be doing his New York and New Jersey show. Michael, thank you so much. Good to see you, and we'll see you next month.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Attorney Michael, I got to tell you, Michael's firm, the name of the firm is Licatesi Law Group. They're wonderful. They represent people in New York and New Jersey. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you again next week on the Ask the Expert show. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.